I think he's an intriguing name to add into the kind of wider wrestling landscape. Now, we're doing this very fresh off the news. I don't know what he wants to do. He may have no interest in doing any of these things, but like Dolph doing like a kind of weird freelance run as an indie guy is intriguing to me, I have to be honest, because he's never wrestled outside WWE.
So currently, the names that have been released, Mustafa Ali, Emma, Rick Boogs, Aaliyah, Elias, Riddick Moss, Madcap Moss, Top Dollar, not Hit Row, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin, and I guess the big one is Dolph Ziggler. Just to speak on Dolph Ziggler quickly, just because of his tenure in WWE, like I'm sure he must have been there like nearly 20 odd years now.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think of them getting rid of him at this point?
Unfortunately, I think the writing was on the wall. A couple weeks back, when Gunther was getting ready to break the record, they did a video package about like the great IC champs, and I could be wrong on this. He was not in that video once, and that was an alarm bell thing for me because I think he's won that belt like 4 or 5, maybe more times, right? He's done it a lot. Yeah. And I remember thinking that was interesting. And the following week, Ryan Nemeth tweeted that hilarious Photoshop of them together.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, I don't know how this is trending. It had been a while since I saw him. So I wasn't like stunned by it. He is the big one, right, in terms of name value. And it's always interesting, like guys like him kind of fade to the background. But when news like this breaks, everyone suddenly remembers, right? Like we'll all have memories of that dude. Like he's been a constant. So it's been nice to see people celebrating his run because it was a hell of a run. He could have done a lot more, but he still did an awful lot.
Yeah.
I think he's an intriguing name to add into the kind of wider wrestling landscape. Now, we're doing this very fresh off the news. I don't know what he wants to do. He may have no interest in doing any of these things, but like Dolph doing like a kind of weird freelance run as an indie guy is intriguing to me, I have to be honest, because he's never wrestled outside WWE, right? Yeah. So not surprised, but I hope he's well. And look, regardless of anything else, what a run. As you said, nearly 2 decades. Like he had a hell of a run.
Yeah, and the cynic in me says he pinched a lot of money from that company. And I don't mean pinched as in like he stole it, like he wasn't a good wrestler. He was a really good wrestler. But, by the time he's left now, we know he was probably one of the top earners there, over $1 million a year. So it's kind of one of them ones where you're looking at your books and you want to reduce things. It's like, we're paying this guy over $1 million. We're not really using him. Like, it becomes an academic choice. You mentioned obviously an indie run. I had always kind of fantasy books, especially around 2016 and stuff. I think just before that program with The Miz, if you remember, for the IC title.
Yep.
Because he wasn't doing much of anything, and it looked like they were going to do this whole, if you don't win, you're out sort of stuff. I thought, what would Dolph Ziggler in Bullet Club look like? Dolph Ziggler in New Japan with Bullet Club with the other Gaijins. I just thought, let's run it. Like, repackage him as DZ or something like that. Like, I felt like that could have been really good, and then do the trademark thing, eventually come back to WWE and actually be rated. They're taking him a lot more seriously. It's the world is his oyster. And obviously Shelton Benjamin as well, great talent. I just feel like they must be able to keep Benjamin on as a coach or something at the very least.
Yeah, you would think so. And I must admit, I do think that's where Shelton is probably increasingly going to be more valuable, right? Because just on age, I mean, he's a freak of nature, but he is nearly 50. To your point about Dolph and Bullet Club, like that was him and Cody makes for a fascinating parallel because like you really, if you just switch them and imagine Dolph makes that move in 2015 or whatever it was, he absolutely would have been in Bullet Club. And it's like, these are the choices, man. I'm sure Dolph sleeps okay at night because you said he made a lot of money, but it's interesting. Shelton is, I have to be honest, I haven't seen him perform at a high level for a while because he hasn't had a chance to, right? I mean, Shelton's been working main event a lot. It would be nice for him to get a kind of, the career equivalent of a victory lap, right? Get a run where he gets a lot of appreciation and gets a nice send-off to his career. From what I understand of him as a character, he's going to be an incredible coach or producer. He just has a great grasp of the industry and is a class act. So everyone's rooting for Shelton. I don't know if he's going to have the big run that folks are hoping for, but I'd like him to get something because he deserves that, I think.
So I guess some of the more established and bigger wrestlers within this release that we've heard of so far would be your Dolph Ziggler, your Shelton Benjamin, Mustafa Ali. Obviously, we know there's now a noisy neighbor, not too far away in AEW. Do you think that we can see any of these guys turn up, or who would you like to see kind of maybe at least dip their foot over there just to have one or two spotlight matches with some of the talent in AEW?
I think Ali is the one that I would lock in. I think he'll be there very soon. I think he's a talented guy. I have never quite seen, to be totally frank, what others have seen with him. And I think he's very talented, but I never saw world champion with him.
Oh,
but I think I never saw that. And a lot of people did, but that's the beauty of it, right? But I think he's absolutely someone that they're going to be excited to see what he has. So I think he's a lock for AEW. I think you'll see Dolph work a handful of dates for them. Even if it's something as simple as working like one of Brian's farewell matches before the next 20 years where he's a part-timer. So I think those two, I have to be honest, I do not think the list is particularly AEW friendly is the way I'll phrase it. There's a lot of names who, your mind goes to an Impact, and that is kind of a pejorative and an insult. I know that. I don't mean it that way, but this is a different crop of guys to who we saw getting released in 2020 and 2021, I felt.
Yeah.
And it kind of reflects who Triple H has pushed on TV, because a handful of these guys are like gimmick guys. And I don't see where an Elias or a Rick Boogs fits on the other channel. They can still get work, but I see those two names personally. I mean, that part is always kind of interesting to see who gets a shot elsewhere.
Yeah, this is going to be, I guess, the chatter for the next couple of weeks, especially as these 90 days kind of rule kind of trickle down. I'll be interested to see if Mustafa Ali's 90 days, because I think they said that in the past NXT talents are 30 days. Now, obviously, we know he's free agent or whatever they're doing, so I don't know if he's actually 30 days or 90 days, but he's in NXT, and it's crazy because he's meant to be at a pay-per-view on the weekend sort of thing, but I guess that's not happening now. Shelton Benjamin, I think, could have a one-off match or something, how they brought in Rob Van Dam not too long ago. And I think Rob Van Dam's coming back this weekend. I think
I'd like to see that, definitely. I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things, right, where it's like, what does the talent want? Because again, I think we both agreed coaching is where Shelton's going to eventually prosper. So if he wants to get into that now, I think there's a gig for an episode. But either way, I'm with you. I'd like to see a one-off for sure.
Yeah. Ali, as you mentioned, could probably be the one they look at for definitely a long-term signing. Very creative guy. I think he's always tried. He's definitely always tried in WWE, and whether they haven't given the time of day or nothing he's done has stuck, I don't know, but he always keeps trying. Dolph Ziggler fascinates me because obviously we know he does his comedy thing on the side. It's like, how do you actually still want to wrestle at this point?
Right.
Like, with all the money you've made and everything else you're doing, you still want to wrestle. And the one thing I think that could take him to AEW might actually just be his brother, and maybe an attempt to try and get his brother over, whether that's through a tag team run or going up against each other, who knows. But do you see something there beyond maybe, like you said, one-off matches with Danielson for Dolph Ziggler?
I think it would be foolish to write it off, right? Because let's be honest, there are a lot of guys on AEW TV who are not nearly as good as Dolph right now, and that's that's just the reality of it. I could absolutely see him getting a full-time contract. Honestly, the reason I don't expect him to is because of what you kind of alluded to at the start there, which is I don't really know if that's what he wants to do. He seems really chill and just kind of like he does some wrestling every once in a while. Now, again, as a fan, it would really intrigue me how he would do in weird, imagine Dolph doing Bloodsport and being like amateur wrestler, though. These things. But I think reality is he's probably going to do some stuff for AEW with his brother, which you said. Now, is that going to be the run that folks dreamed up for Dolph outside of WWE? Probably not, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'll have fun and do BTE skits and stuff. So whatever makes the dude happy. He's a guy who I think pretty openly checked out on some level. And his approach was when I have a real match, I'll make sure I entertain the people, but I ain't worrying about this beyond that.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he can find something to do, kind of in wrestling outside of WWE, because as we said, never been outside that system. That is insane for a guy his pedigree. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, man. Like, he could get the All Elite graphic on day one of his 90-day ending. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah, literally. Yeah, he's you said he possibly checked out, and I think for you to have so many ventures and your fingers in so many different pies while you're still meant to be active, and there might be a level of that's the deal they gave him, that's the deal he brokered for himself, which fair play, but I think he's done all he can, and like we mentioned, that particular window that he maybe could have moved on and then eventually come back, but credit to him, about 20 years non-stop to be on TV for that long, you just have to pay respect to the guy. So he's done very well in that respect.